would say that protection against the exploitation of vulnerabilities is probably the way forward. And what I mean by that is not looking out for specific exploits, but looking out for any kind of exploit that attacks a vulnerability that we already know about. So for example, with signature-based products, whether they're looking for binaries, whether they're looking at URLs, whether they're looking at exploit code, if someone tweaks that, then maybe the product will miss it if their signature isn't wide enough reaching. So what some vendors are starting to do already, and I think we'll see more of them doing it, is they're focusing on the vulnerability on the system. And so when they see something try and play with that, that's when they'll block it. So if someone tweaks their exploit code to try and avoid detection, these systems will still catch them.
I think a lot of different features have been introduced during the last few years. Proactive detection based on many different approaches were one of the items, but also people have said, okay, we actually cannot always prevent that the system gets infected. However, we can limit what the malware can actually do if it has infected a system. And based on this approach, the behavior-based detection was developed, so that, for example, a malware could infect some parts of a system, but actually the damage it usually would perform was prevented. So, for example, you were not able to, or the malware was not able to steal your online banking records, your passwords, or whatever. Mm-hmm. So, the criminals are currently working a lot to defend these mechanisms because they harm their business model.
Sometimes I think we focus too much on the technical evolution and the technical challenges. I think one of the big things that's coming is an increase in end user awareness and end user training. We've realized that it's not enough to do security awareness at work for employees. Employees take their work home with them, and they're working at home with a family which now has, in the average household, 5 or 6 digital devices, all of which are connecting mostly wirelessly to the internet. A lot of them are on all the time. And so there's a big push from several directions to educate the family, just society as a whole, on what the threats are and how to defend against them. Because if you look at the area, for example, of critical infrastructure, where governments are starting to pay a lot of attention, it's almost impossible to secure a critical infrastructure which depends on things like the internet without all the people that use the internet taking some responsibility for safety. You know, we've seen with botnets that the criminal element is prepared to exploit the lower levels of security on home computers to recruit those into very powerful attack tools, which can be used, you know, against governments, against companies, and so on. And I think what we're starting to see, you know, anti-malware products, including levels of education in them. So,
I think what's next is unfortunately we're going to stay in a mix of these types of technologies. We'll see more and more of a dynamic type of detection technique depending on the device it's in, but I think what you're going to first see is the similar technologies you have today, be they signature devices or HIPs, whatever they may be, deployed initially as new devices come out, because the security industry has to understand that new device, because the device hits the market before the security industry has the opportunity to go look at the threats and the possible vulnerabilities that exist, as we all find out that after the fact that something may be vulnerable when it's already in mass production. So it's going to take some time for the antivirus industry and the malware industry to keep up with that threat.